Well, hello and welcome back to Journals for Breakfast. My name is Andrea. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you're a new viewer, welcome. You are so welcome here, and we're really happy to have you in this space. So this episode is going to be a little bit different format, such as it is, than what I really have kind of outlined as how I set up my episodes here. A bit of a variety show. I've been doing a little bit of filming here and there, and I'm going to kind of piece things together for a video through some editing. So a little bit different setup today, but I've been just kind of filming when I've had the energy and the space to do so. And for those who have reached out, thank you so much for your well wishes. Things are going well. I will share 3 quick things about the cancer journey that I am on. One is that I did do a round of chemo at the end of July. I think that's pretty obvious. I lost pretty much all my hair, which we knew was going to happen. So that's life. And then the next thing that I'll share is the next phase is we're going to move into a surgery, which will take place sometime in September. And then hopefully this will be behind us. The third thing I want to share is something that I've been thinking about for a while, which is how much of this cancer journey I'll be sharing in this space. I am an open book. I believe if you've been watching my episodes here, you've picked up on that. I love to share, and there really is nothing too quote unquote personal to ask me. And that is true in my business as well. I own a small cooking school with my husband, and in the classes that I teach, I'm an open book about my own battles with diet and self-esteem and weight and etc. We talk a lot about that in these cooking classes, and there's just nothing that's off the table. But what I want to say about this cancer journey is that one thing I have learned that I did not know prior to this is how individualistic cancer diagnoses and treatments truly are. And what I mean is they're personal, not in that they're private, they're very individualistic. If you and I both were diagnosed with the same class, the same exact type of cancer, the reality is that our treatment plans still wouldn't mirror each other. There would be similarities along the way, but the problem is that where yours is, how it's located, if it's attached, what size, how many centimeters, all of that is going to vary from my story. But the most important thing that I've discovered is that what really impacts how individualized cancers and cancer treatments are is our own DNA, the way our own bodies respond to these treatments that have become available to us. And no two of us are ever going to find that we have the same journey as far as that goes. Because of that, I feel like I want to be extremely careful that I don't ever say something here that plants a seed, right? That sets a kernel in someone else that causes them to shift in any way the way that they think about a cancer diagnosis or treatment plan, should that ever be a part of their story. That is something that each person will need to go inward on, speak to their doctors about, and speak to their family about. My story just isn't going to relate. That said, if you're watching this and you've got somebody who's struggling with a diagnosis, or you yourself are, and you just want somebody to talk to about it, feel free to message me on Instagram, where I am also Journals for Breakfast, and we can just have a chit chat as 2 people going through some of the phases of this ourselves, and that is totally fine. So that's what I have to say about that. Let's move on to the fun stuff, which is journaling, collaging, sharing, painting, all the good stuff. And I got a lot of new subscribers recently because of a dear friend who shared my link on her channel. Thank you, Sandy. That means a lot to me. And I got so many neat comments. It was really fun to look through. And for those who've been watching me for a bit, thank you for your kind comments too. I always love reading through. We don't have a whole lot of people in this space, so it's easy for me to get right back with you guys. So I do try to reply quickly. But I got a question from one of our new viewers that was a question that was deep dive enough that it warranted talking about in this episode rather than me just writing her back. So Mary, I appreciate your question, and here's what Mary wrote. She said that she has several questions, one of which is, where do you get all of the paper that you use for your collage work? You see behind me, boop, 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 some of that paper up there. And then secondly, when do you journal or make your collages? And is it part of a spiritual practice you do daily? Is it something you do in the evening? I'm just curious how the process works for you. And I love these questions, Mary, so much. So where do I get all the paper that I use for my collage work? Okay. That's pretty straightforward stuff. We're gonna do a little montage here of some photos that I'm gonna pop in while I'm chatting with you. Obviously, there's some of the papers behind me. These shelves are from IKEA. I love this shelving unit. It's kind of that in-between blue, like the blue that I'm wearing. I've told you guys before, I'm really drawn to that color. And my husband found these inserts at IKEA for me, which are the shelves and then the crosses which hold my yarn. And he knew those shelves would be great for my paper products. And he's right, there's only two. I only did 2 of those kind of shelf inserts because I have a lot more yarn than I have paper. But yeah, so the paper that's in those, that stuff, and I'll do some overheads of this while we're chit-chatting, but that stuff mostly are collections of things that come from, I got a lot of this kind of stuff in here. I'll show you. See these big booklets that you can get of mixed papers? So I keep those in there. This one was on clearance for $5.49, and it will take me 10 years of collaging to burn through that. And I do use this one a lot. I love these. It has this kind of craft paper vibe to it. I don't know, and florals. It's really lovely. So I keep kind of that stuff in here. And then, but I also am the queen of found papers, and I think that's a lot of fun too. This was a bag that some yarn came in from a quarterly membership that I do through Seasons Club, which is a Carol Feller club, yarn club. And I love this polka dot paper, and it has this trippy kind of consistency to it. I love using that in my collages. So I do some found papers as well. But I'm gonna do a tour for you guys of 2 craft carts that I have. One that is watercolor focused now. I've been doing so much with watercolor that finally it was time to devote a cart just to that craft. And that bad boy is right here. And we'll tour him up together a little bit. So there's that. And then I have another one that's in the closet over here that is devoted to, he's bigger than this, I'll show you. That cart is devoted to journaling and collage. And so there's more paper and kind of stickers and things like that on that cart. So we'll do a tour of him too. So yeah, found, and in that I'll explain a little bit about where I get that stuff, but found papers are part of it, and just bits and pieces. I have a pen pal named Sherry, and she sends me little scriptsies, bits and pieces. Sometimes it's something as simple as, again, I know I'm putting some overheads in here too, but like this collage, this was a bag that some paint came in from Beam Paint Company. And I just loved that it was this craft papery bag, and this was the packing material was stuck to the bag. I just ripped it out and stuck it on there, right? So found papers are a big part of it. I think that it would be a really fun thing to create a collage notebook, you know, a smaller one, and just 100% devote it to found things. Like all of the stuff that you put in there are reclaimed. So from packages, from cards, this little guy here, he has shown up in a lot of my collages, and he's the inside of a birthday card envelope. A friend of mine sent me a birthday card, and the inside of the envelope was this green floral. So I just tore it into pieces and kept it. And those little bits and pieces of him have shown up in lots of collages for me. I think this might have been the inside of a card as well, actually. So yeah, all over the place is where I get my supplies. And let's look at the cart together, and that'll give you some more information about that. But while I'm just sitting chit-chatting with you for a minute, secondly, when do you journal or make your collages? So that's a really good question. I told you guys in episode 1 that a big shift for me in getting myself through some burnout was creating really quiet time just for myself in every single day, in absolutely every single day. So this is going to look different for all of us, sort of depending on our schedules and etc. But I have a lot of quiet time in my mornings. And so I do typically try to follow my own practice that I shared here that I learned from another YouTuber, which is create before I consume. So and consume means YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, email, that consumption. So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is get a cup of coffee. And then I come back to this space, and the first thing that I go to is my gratitude check-in. And this is technically my, I think we've called it my happiness tracker. So I list all of these things that I would love to see happen every single day of my life, like laugh out loud, kiss my dog, be in nature, meditate, smile, give a compliment, do a facial, take a deep breath, all the things that I would love to see happen in a day. And what happens with this happiness tracker is I can be pretty brain dead first thing in the morning, grab a nice marker, sit down. And what happens with this is I go back to yesterday and start to pull forward the moment that I laughed out loud, or the moment that I took a deep breath or did a short meditation, or when was it exactly that I gave my little pup a nice kiss on the top of his head. It pulls me back to yesterday and brings those experiences kind of forward. So it is the most simplistic form of journaling that I can do. And that is typically what happens in the first 15 minutes that I'm awake. I then head out and spend some time in nature with my dog. In those moments, I get to check off time in nature. I get to check off sometimes a meditation. That is 100%, Mary, a part of my spiritual practice, finding spirit for myself. When I get down to the estuaries where I do my walks with my dog, I always take a moment to just breathe deeply, and it is incredible, the nature that is staring back at me in that moment. And that is my moment of spirituality for the day. It's an opportunity for me to do a small prayer of thanks for the beauty that is in front of me, for another day of health, even in the midst of all that's happening. So that's a really important practice for me. And it's fast, I think we get caught up in the idea of, because I wonder sometimes behind this question, when do you journal and make collages? Is this part of your spiritual practice daily? Do you do it in the evening? I can kind of hear in there, like, where is their time? Believe it or not, these little moments, 60 seconds, they really don't take a lot of time. What matters is that I've taken the time to do it, and then I come back and acknowledge that time. I draw it forward again, and that somehow expands on it, So even if it was just 1 minute down at the estuary that I closed my eyes and took that breath, then I relive it the next morning for another minute and just kind of expand on it. So morning is really the time of day that I get a big chunk of this stuff sort of done. I do try to take time throughout the day to stop and pause and take a breath. And that's why I put things in here like a coffee break, no phone. So, did you just put that phone away for a 4-hour window in the afternoon and just focus on yourself and other things? So, and then as far as collage goes, the mood hits, girl. I don't know what to tell you. I love gluing paper to paper, and I love tearing up paper. And so if I find that I'm kind of in a block, painting isn't quite coming to me, or writing just isn't feeling the way that it does sometimes, then I just start sticking paper to paper. And before I know it, kaboom, there's just something in front of me. And I love it. I love the tactile feeling of it. I don't know. It's just a joy. That when I discovered collage was, I think it was January of 2023 is when I jumped 2 feet deep into this pool. And I just started. In fact, I think the very first thing I did was the back of this little calendar. I put a sticker on it and put a few stickers around. You can tell my style has evolved over time, right? It started getting more and more, and this is starting to look a lot more like what you guys see of me. And then moving parts that I love. But I just all of a sudden found this thing that just spoke to me. Like, I don't even know how to express it. I just couldn't stop it. Sticking paper to paper to paper to paper. I just went nuts. It was immediately, clearly this thing that was just meant to be a part of who I am. I don't know how else to put it. I found my calling. It's sticking stuff to stuff. I just love collage work. And so I just find time here and there. I do not do a lot of stuff, Mary, later in the day. As my day moves through, I get caught up more and more on chores, on tasks, and of course I work. Right now I'm not working, I'm working on healing. But so as the day winds on, my creativity wanes a bit. What I do find time to do is to continue to connect with a gratitude list at the end of the day. I have variations of that, straight up gratitude. You know, maybe I'll go through a spell where I'll list 3 things every day that I'm very grateful for. Lately, what I've been doing is what I'm calling the good stuff. And the good stuff is the good stuff, like in life, being alive, being a human being. What is the good stuff? And I try to come up with one at the end of a day if I have the capacity. Some of my good stuff includes slow mornings, Christmas pajamas. That's the good stuff, right? Clean sheets. Oh gosh. What else did I put in here? I don't know if you guys would get this one, but oyster beds at low tide. When you go down to a salt marsh and the tide is out, the oysters open out and this brine of that just wafts out into the air, and it is a delight. To me, it is home. Maybe like the smell of like a wheat field on the wind would be home to somebody from the Midwest or something. So the good stuff, and like movie popcorn. So this doesn't have to be, you know, hardcore deep dive journaling, but it's another version of a gratitude list. I like to do a little something in that every day if I can, and that's usually an end of the day practice. As far as the spiritual practice, the thing that was missing for me when I was the deepest in my workaholism, which was also leading to the darkest part of my burnout, what was missing was spirituality. And I'm careful with that word because I myself was a little frightened of that word for a long time. It felt to me like that meant that we were going to be pushing into a very specific secular organized religion. And I have come to understand that spirituality for me is about spirit. It is about my central nervous system having an opportunity to realign in a calm way and connect with something that fuels my spirit. That connection for me is usually nature, and there was none of that in my workaholic days. That connection for me is time with my husband, time with my sweet puppy, time with my art, time just in this space, just in this delightful space. Spirituality in my world isn't very secular, is what I would say. It's not organized in that sense, but I understand what it is to me. And so absolutely, Mary, these are all part of fulfilling my spirit, my soul, every day in some way. And that's really what I wanted to share here. That part, just finding that every day is a huge antidote to burnout for me. And so just that practice of just the joy, the small things. I think that's why gratitude lists are so valuable, right? Because they just force us to take that moment to think of the things we're so grateful for. In the happiness tracker, it allows me to pull yesterday's moments forward and really replay them, have a moment with them. in the good things. It reminds me at the end of a day full of fatigue, what the big picture stuff really is so great for. So yeah, there's that. We are gonna step into a little video tour of my 2 craft carts. I also did an overhead of me putting together my new Traveler's monthly calendar. I ran out of months, and so I got a new one and I had to redo the cover. And so I did an overhead of that, and you know what? I shot the whole thing and then figured out it was mildly out of focus. Boop. So I'm putting it up here anyway. It's about 3 minutes long, maybe 4, and I did a voiceover for it. So you can fast forward through that if the blurriness is a problem, or you can just put it on in the background and hear what I'm chit-chatting about if you're interested. I am so happy to be back with you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope you enjoy the remainder of this show, a bit of a variety episode, if you will, and we're gonna get back on track. I have a burnout tip that I really want to share with you guys, and I've been sort of outlining that episode in my mind for a while, so I think that's what I'll film next. And I'm going to try to get a few episodes pieced together over the course of the next few weeks, a little bit more frequent uploads, because then of course I'm going to have some surgery and I'll be back off again for a few weeks while I heal up from that. So I hope you guys are having a delightful day wherever you are. Write down one good thing today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode, and I look forward to seeing you soon. All right, so here is the watercolor craft cart, and as you can see, it's a rolling cart. And I'm gonna try to do a little tour of this with you guys. So let's see how this goes. It's a cart from IKEA, by the way. I do not know the model of it, I apologize, but I bought it so long ago. But I know that IKEA has loads of these, so it's just a basic cart from IKEA. So let's do a close-up on it, see what we think. Okay, so the cart itself obviously is a 360 spinner, which is super nice and convenient. And this top piece here, I have all of my watercolor and sketchbooks here. As you know from watching other episodes, a lot of the stuff that I had were inexpensive, like this $5 sketchbook from Five Below. And it is an interesting paper, but it is definitely not true watercolor paper, but you know, it will do okay in a pinch. And then I had a couple of this kind of thing from back in the day. Vellum for pencil, charcoal, and light washes that I was doing some stuff with. It's okay. But for my birthday this year, my mom actually went out and bought me real watercolor paper. This is a sampler pack of different ones. And this amazing block of actual watercolor paper. So that's super exciting to get to test those. And then I think this one came from Mom too for the birthday. Yeah, 140 pound. I think this came from her, although maybe not. That might have been one that I had. But I'm really excited about those. The real deal. Maybe this was her. Yeah, I bet this was her. This is more like it, 300 pound. So she got that from a real artist shop. So all that stuff's on the top shelf. And then you guys have seen this one before. This is that little Five Below sketchbook that I do the feathers in. Definitely not rated for watercolor, but by the way, I was hardly a watercolor artist when I started this. So just testing to see how it went. These are those little watercolor pads you can get at big box art stores. They're okay. They work pretty well. You guys have seen some of these in some of the videos. I like the size of that card because I can just do this kind of postcard size painting. And if I don't love it, I tear it up and put it in a collage. And then this was just a beautiful little notepad from a friend. And I started doing watercolors in it. It's definitely not rated for it, but this is kind of where I started. So those were all up on the top shelf. And then this is obviously lots of colored pencils. This is a carry-all that I found somewhere, garage sale or something. I think it might have been meant for like a picnic table, like utensils, you know, like napkins, forks, knives, or something like that. But this part carries all my paintbrushes. And then this is just all colored pencils here. And then I have 2 paint palettes. I had this one of Gem Colors that I got in Frederick, Maryland. Magpie Fibers has a knit shop on one side of the street, but she has a stationery shop on the other. And these were from that. And then my mom got me this beautiful pearlescent palette as part of that birthday haul as well. Look at this gorgeous thing. This came in, unfortunately, just before I was getting ready to go for my chemo, and so I didn't get to spend much time with this, but now that I'm feeling better, I'll spend more time on that. So those palettes sit up here as well. This was a super cheap palette. I'll put these back where they belong after we film. This was a super cheap palette I got on Amazon, and y'all, is cheap. These colors are really garish. They just come out crazy, but you could blend them. I had a post I think I did about that. And then my first really nice paints that I bought myself are from Beam Paint Company. I showed you guys their bag in a collage recently. Beam Paints. That's the name of the paint company. They are so cool. You check them out. Women owned and toxin-free paints and handmade and just the coolest company. And they did this little collaboration with this pen company. So there's the paints. The crayons didn't come with this. Those were a gift as part of that birthday haul for my mom. It comes with a paintbrush. You just pull this out and screw it back together. And then this also came with a fountain pen from that Quaipe. Am I saying that right? Quaico. Penco. A fountain pen. This was in here. The crayons were not. So what a cool little set. That's on Beam Paints. And they have 5 different colorways. I think this one was Mystic Forest or something like that. So that's top shelf. Second shelf, what I've done is just put all of my artist books here. So Perspective Made Easy, Painting Calm, which I showed you guys in another video, The Artist's Way, Everyday Watercolor with Jenna Rainey. And if you don't follow Jenna Rainey on Instagram, I highly recommend it. And on YouTube, she has so many video tutorials that are at no cost, but she also does have a Patreon. Those are there. And then this is the color palette that I worked with from the start. I bought this little $9 palette at the big box, and the paints I'm using are also their house brand. They're pretty El Cheapo, and I did a post on Instagram. If you go back a few posts, you'll see it, where I show you their colors from the tube, what they look like. And again, they're really kind of garish and bright, but how I can blend them and create those sort of in-between colors. I've really loved this palette. For $9 and cheap paints, it was certainly an easy way to get started. So that's there. I'm thinking about putting some of my coloring books on this cart. So right now some are over on the journaling cart, but they might make their way over here. And these are just empty bag, empty little tray. And then down here I have paint by numbers that was given to me. And so those paints are down there. I have some watercolor brush pens down here. These little magnetic canvases, I thought it would be fun to paint something and give those out like as Christmas gifts. Crayons. And the other thing that's down here is a big bucket full of paper towels. So I always have them on hand. And that's really all that's on that cart, but it just got everything in one concise place. And I love that I can just wheel it up to my table and work from it in the morning. And then when I'm done with it for the day, I can wheel it back against the wall and tuck it away. And it's just sort of tucked back and out of my way. So that's that cart. We'll take a look at the one that's in the closet next. Hey y'all. Okay, so filming this cart turned out to be impossible. I can't even tell you. I started yesterday and just couldn't even get there. I tried again today. It turns out you have to be a videographer to learn how to film something like this. So I am going to do a voiceover on a collection of still shots of each of the tiers of this wonderful cart. I'll tell you about what's in this bag and some of the things that are up here. So that's what's coming up next. I hope you enjoy. Hey guys, so here's the cart in the closet where it lives, which is nice. I can tuck it away, and then I just roll it out and close the curtains and have a little craft cart to work from. On top, I have just assorted baskets of journals, tarot cards. I can pick that bucket up and just set it on my desk, and it's got all my day planners and basic journals in it. So it's, I can move little parts of it around. This little collection I'll talk about towards the end of this little canvas bag and that brain dump journal. On the second shelf are these containers I got at the Container Store, and they're cool because it's a container with containers. See, like inside are all of these individual little snap close boxes. So I could just pull one of those out and take it over to the table if I know kind of what I'm working with at that moment. So that's really handy storage. And then this deeper part of the cart gives me place for stamps, ink, glue. Bottom shelf, I have quotes in those books. I have my Kleenex, and just some tools. And then inside that bag are two of those sleeves that I mentioned and some pins. And then here is the brain dump. I love this thing. I stole this idea from Sandy by the lakeside. And I like to take that canvas bag and this kind of brain dump big sketch pad and just take it out to the living room when we're doing some Netflix nights and jot down things that I don't want to forget. The filming of this video was really tricky. I tried a version where I sat on the floor, and you can see how that went. Not perfect. So ultimately, there's the lightweight tour of the journaling cart. It's a big cart, about 31 inches, and really handy. So I have run out of space in my traveler's notebook. It's the passport size, monthly, undated. Let's see if I can get that to focus up. And I have used up all the months, so it's time to get a new one going. This guy's been with me for longer than 12 months because I skipped some months here and there. You know, I do pretty well with planner stuff, and then I kind of fall off the wagon, and that's why I like an undated. I don't end up having to like skip months and leave a big hole in my planner. I can just pick back up wherever I left off. But this is August, and I have now run out of days. So it's time to redecorate and redo, and that's going to be kind of fun. So because this is a yearly, right, it's going to be with me for a minimum of 12 months, and knowing me, it could be a bit longer. I actually did something I don't normally do when it comes to collage work. Normally with collage work, I just bring out a stack of my papers and just go to town. I just start tearing things up and having a good time. But today, because this is going to be with me for a long time, I decided to kind of curate a style. And so I shopped my own stash to see what I had available. And I have these beautiful stickers from Chapteries, and I'll put a link to her below. She's in France, but her collections are just absolutely gorgeous. So we've got these really pretty stickers. And then I just picked papers that were just kind of talking to me. I've always been attracted to this rose gold honeycomb. I use that in a lot of my collages. And so I just grabbed kind of a little stack to sort of curate the overall theme, I suppose is what we'll say. And then from there, we'll go from there. I think, you know, I use these paint chips often in my collage work. I pick those up obviously at the hardware store, Home Depot, wherever I am. And then I got these pet tapes. I feel like these also came from Chapteries, and they're just such beautiful images of women. So I'm going to use one or two of those in this whole roll too. We'll look at these real quick. She's making breakfast in her pajamas. I love that. Journaling, rainy days. They're really pretty. I love the size of them. They're a big chunky size, which is really nice. So I'll use one of these gals or a couple of these gals somewhere in here. Aren't these pretty? And just kind of get the overall cover of this resolved. It's very unusual for me to like actually curate my washi tapes for a project. I just see what sort of speaks to me. But again, this bad boy is going to be with me for quite some time. So I decided to be a little bit more specific, a little bit more choosy. So these are the washis that I'll use. And I have a few stickers laid out here that just really speak to me. I was looking for a place for this one not too long ago and decided he'd make a good home here, but it just says BU, which I just think is so sweet. So he'll make a appearance somewhere. And then these guys I got from an Etsy shop that does journaling stuff, and they're just this collection of just random little papers, just little cool things on them. Pretty cool. So I actually like that exact one. Spoke to me. But they're just super random. You never know what you'll get when you flip through this deck. I mean, there's just hundreds of styles in there. And I've had a lot of fun adding these to collage things in the past too. So here's a little tray of some curated things from my collection, and we'll get started on the overhead here. And like I said, if you just focus on the paper down on the table rather than my hands, you'll see the collage start to form itself up. I do use a glue stick for this. I'm going to use a combination of glue stick and some clear tape. It turns out that a lot of my washis this summer lost their stickiness because the humidity here is just so intense. And even though I don't consider our house terribly humid, I just don't think there's any way to avoid it. So I may ultimately start keeping those in something more airtight, like the container store containers on my cart that have the containers within the containers. I may switch out some of the papers with that and move washi tapes into that instead, just to see if I can protect them. So you'll see as I start to add washi to this particular collage that I end up putting clear tape over it. The clear tape that I use, there's those watercolor cards I was talking about earlier. And see, I don't mind just tearing them up. One, they're not very good. But they're pretty, right? I mean, it's pretty colors and it's a pretty idea. So I just tear them up and put them into stuff. So anyway, the tape I use is Scotch brand gift wrap tape. And the reason is that it is crazy sticky, but it's also crystal clear. You almost can't tell that it's there, except to say that it does create a little bit of a glossiness to whatever you tape it over. So if you were looking for a really specific texture, kind of tactile feeling in your collage, that tape probably wouldn't fly for that. But I kind of have to protect this thing with some tape anyway, because again, he's going to be in my planner, my carry-all for at least a year, but maybe longer. So putting clear tape over him is a good idea. I ended up throwing a couple things on the inside of this guy just to get me started. I'm not going to finish this collage by any means today, but I do like to put a few little things in and then just sort of see how I do. This is an undated planner, so I had to hand write my dates in. And then you can see that that's some of the curated paper. And then there's the two side by side before we got started. But I just tuck them into this guy right here. And once he goes in, what happens, see, you can only see part of him at a time. So that's kind of the quote unquote front cover of it, which would have been the right side in the video. And then here's the whole thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Left and right side are different. So when he's actually snapped into my planner, you have the right side that's visible when you're open there, and then the back side, which would have been the left side in the overhead video. See the back side? And then to the right of that is just a pocket, a clear pocket that's full of other paper and stickies and stuff that I keep in there. So there's the layout of it, and I think it looks so pretty in my little planner, and it just gives me a lot of joy to have something attractive like that waiting for me every day. Well, goodness gracious, you guys, what a video this turned out to be. I think it's pretty telling because it's sort of how life is for me right now. No 2 days are the same. It just is what it is. You got to go with the flow and deal with things as they come. I am looking forward to our next video together. I'm looking forward to getting back to a cleaner format. This took a lot of editing and it's pretty much a variety show, but I hope you enjoy it. Again, I'm super glad you're here. Check in the description box for links to lots of the things that I talk about in here. Find me over on Instagram where I'm also Journals for Breakfast. For those who mentioned mentioned they're interested in the knitting content. Thank you. That means a lot to me. And I do have another knitting video that I want to do shortly. I kind of lost my knitting mojo a little bit during the chemo treatment. It just wasn't speaking to me, and I did not have the brain capacity. And it's starting to come back, and that feels really good. I'm getting excited about fall knits. This is a long video. I had a great time filming it. I'm feeling really good. So let's just keep onward and upward with that. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Do something lovely for yourself and then write it down so that you remember it again tomorrow. And that is all you have to do to be a journaler. Okay, have a great day. We'll see you soon.